Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to cover chapter 13 in this video. I know we were supposed to cover it over 2 days, but it will be done in one video. And we will be covering nonverbal communication and in mediated contexts. So if you're following along with the slides, push forward to slide 4. That's where I'm going to go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and focus on nonverbal communication of the news, right? So we're focusing on news anchors. I say we, but I mean they, news anchors, communicate non-verbally with their physical appearance, right? We do as well, just as normal humans, but that's a big part of being a news anchor. So, despite hiring women minorities in the industry, anchors are predominantly white, middle-aged, and male, right? Think of all the news anchors, the national news anchors. I mean, local news, it's the same, but think of the national ones. You know, Walter Cronkite was a huge news anchor for years. Anderson Cooper, right? Those are the only two I can think of right now, but um, they are predominantly white middle-aged males. With news anchors, there's a beauty is good stereotype. So attractive people are seen as having additional positive qualities. So if you're attractive, you might seem more trustworthy, more likable, more sincere, more smart, right? Doesn't really mean that it's true, it's just what we perceive. And this does forbid hiring unattractive anchors. Anchors also need an attractive on-air voice that conforms to a contemporary standard. So that's low pitch, no accent, fluent speech. So thinking about all of these, think about any news anchor, right? We don't hear, especially at the national news level, we do not hear news anchors with this southern drawl, right? It doesn't match the contemporary standards. Also remember what we talked about with voice deviations and the negative standards. So news anchors have a need for ratings, and that conflicts with the need for clear reporting, right? So we've got to get good ratings, therefore I have to have these hard-hitting stories. Anchors need to be approachable, but also detached. This is similar to your doctor, right? They have to seem like they care about you because they're taking care of you, but they can't get too attached to you because then if something goes wrong, it's going to eat them alive. So, news anchors have to have lighthearted stories that have banter, laughs. Um, they have to have touch between anchors, and serious or tragic stories have to have the opposite, right? So, approach signals are close proximity between anchors, continuous eye contact between them or them and the camera, carefully placed smiles, and relaxed vocal tones for warmth. However, in a serious story, they would use avoidance signals. So this is restricted movement, right? We're not going to get on there and hear about how a war has started and see them moving all over the place, right? Because it makes them seem like they are worried about something, which freaks us out as viewers. There's minimal vocal intonation. This is partially due to sorry, it's 5:30 in the morning. I have not been to sleep yet. I can't sleep, and so I decided to record some lectures to get them done. So you have them when the time comes. So minimal vocal intonation also decreases knowledge of their bias, right? So if you get a news anchor that says something in a story and they're like, right? They make these faces, or they're like, oh, yeah, there's a new plan coming in that's supposed to save billions of dollars, but we've got to spend it first, right? That shows that they've got some sort of bias toward that topic. And there's also use of neutral expressions for clarity, right? So they don't make a lot of facial expressions because they want their journalism to be clear. They want you to understand what's going on. So TV interviews and talk shows are a little bit different than traditional news, right? You can watch these videos. You should watch these videos. They're very short, but just how they treat things. They're more lighthearted. It's banter. It's back and forth. They're leaning in. They're focusing on their guest. They might reach out to the audience, but the focus is on the guest, right? So please do watch these videos. It demonstrates how they're different. So with interviews and talk shows, there's a less of a need to follow this emotional display of rules of traditional news, right? I don't have to use restricted movement. I don't have to have minimal vocal intonation or minimal facial expressions, right? There is advocacy journalism that kind of blurs the line between news and entertainment, and there's more variety in nonverbal communication in interviews and talk shows. So I don't know if you watch the Trevor Noah show. It's not one of the 3 links I just had you watch, but I personally can't stand Trevor Noah. It's the sound of his voice. There's something. But I like the way he runs his show, right? It's lighthearted. He makes jokes. He uses sarcasm, similar to Jon Stewart, but Jon Stewart doesn't have his show anymore. And so I really like that, right? So in the first interview is Larry King. Larry King used active listening. He was leaning forward. There was good eye contact with Donald Trump, and they used soft vocals. The second video was Chris Matthews, and Chris Matthews took on an antagonistic behavior. He interrupted Donald Trump a lot. There were a lot of frowns. There were a lot of harsh tones. In the third video, Jon Stewart, lots of sarcasm and jokes, smirking, eye-rolling, jeering, mocking, loud remarks, but not the antagonistic loud remarks. Okay? So, nonverbal communication in the news, there's a media spin of political reporting that shapes our understanding of nonverbal communication in current events and future events, right? So they show us what they want us to know or see or hear or think, right? There's a meta discourse, which is discourse about nonverbal communication. So the media interprets nonverbal communication and then chooses what will enter the public consciousness. So in 2004, there was the Dean Scream. Howard Dean was a presidential candidate in 2004, and he shouted into his mic over a cheering audience while campaigning, right? His mic filtered out the audience and picked up him. This made him look very dramatic and crazy, and the media kind of spun it to make him look as a raving lunatic and ridiculed him. So the link to the Dean Scream is in the notes. Make sure you check that out. Second is the McCain versus Obama eye contact. So McCain, rest in peace, very rarely made eye contact with Obama, which led the media to label him as condescending, right? Because he wasn't making eye contact. He must have thought he was better than Obama, which really isn't true. You can watch that video. Link is in the notes section as well. Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky study, right? That newspaper study. I don't know, are y'all old enough to know about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky? If you don't, Google it. Basically, she was his intern and they were sleeping together. And as of, when was the last election? 2016? She was not really posting things in favor of Hillary because she didn't want to get screwed by 2 Clintons. So that was kind of funny. But this study of newspapers, tabloids about the scandal studied descriptions and interpretations of Clinton's nonverbal communication and appearance in video testimony to a grand jury, and found that newspapers focused heavily on nonverbal communication, the face, the tone, the gestures, to advance their political agenda. So some obviously follow the same political biases as Clinton and that supported Clinton. Others criticized him. So links for the videos are in the notes, but there's not a link for the study. Research on nonverbal communication in the news shows that newscasters have an inability to totally inhibit facial expressions while reporting in the news. This is overall, but we still don't know how much bias exists and to what impact, if any, that it has on attitudes, behaviors of viewers. The results of the studies are pretty intriguing, but it's still not 100% supported or known. Viewers' choice of news networks typically reflect presidential candidates. So you watch news that supports your political affiliation. And TV interviewers also display nonverbal communication of bias toward interviewees. So these bias displays have been shown to shape viewers' perceptions, right? So if you're watching something like Trevor Noah has a clear and distinct basic hatred toward Donald Trump. He displays that bias towards Donald Trump. And should he ever interview him, this could shape your perceptions as the viewer, right? How he acts nonverbally could impact you. Focusing on appearance of newscasters, we kind of talked about this a little bit before. So the need for approval rating means the anchors may never escape the beauty bias, thinking of like beauty is good, what we talked about already. That might impact us when anchors are reporting biasedly, right? Oh, they're attractive, so they're good, they're honest, they're respectful. They wouldn't blatantly say something wrong. Again, few women and minorities hold prestigious positions. And an increase in Black news anchors is this thought of the end to old-fashioned racism, disguising it as modern racism. So a lot of news corporations think that hiring news anchors who are Black demonstrates that their news channel does not see them as inferior. But there's been an increase at the same time of stories that fuel negative attentions toward Black people, such as crime, right? And some studies show the existence of local news bias favors negative stories of Black people over the positive ones. So people who say racism is dead are blatantly lying to you. Do not believe them. It is alive and well. We have just gotten to the point of we disguise this old-fashioned racism of explicitly saying, hey, no, we won't hire you based on the color of your skin with, oh, no, we've hired this anchor. They're wonderful. They're a great asset to the team. But really, there were ulterior motives as to hiring them. This is the modern racism, okay? So how do these portrayals impact us? So theories of modeling show that we begin to adopt similar attitudes and behaviors of news anchors and characters that we identify with. Common nonverbal stereotypes: women show a more nurturing behavior than men. Men conceal their emotions. Gay men in the media are not masculine. They have high-pitched or feminine tones. So think about Jack from Will and Grace. If you don't know who that is, Google it. And women in music videos must be dependent and fearful, while men are adventurous and domineering. So the same for children's ads, which is ridiculous. Children who watch a lot of TV. Okay, so you do need to know this. A lot of TV is described as oh, hang on a second. I had it in my notes. What? I just want to make sure that I'm saying the right one because I don't want to. I'm sorry about this. Okay. Okay, yeah, it's in there. So children who watch a lot of TV, and we're talking like 40 plus hours, right? Not a day, not a week, but 40 plus hours. They are better at decoding facial expressions, but they're less expressive when they try to fake emotion, right? Because they see what fake emotion looks like and they match that. They're not as good at expressing emotions that are less frequently seen on TV, right? So kids who watch a lot of TV really can't express fear or disgust like other children because they're avid TV watchers and it's not shown on TV a lot. And they often overshow emotions, right? So it's not that they're more expressive, but they tend to show a lot more emotions, like um, if they're actually experiencing it. That's what I mean to say there. Because characters on TV often, they're not following the normal display rules because they're acting. So with this, that means that, sorry, when you are actually experiencing an emotion, you exaggerate it. Okay. With intergroup bias, people pick up on nonverbal bias, so more negative and unfriendly towards particular social outgroups from TV unconsciously, right? So I actually studied disadvantaged and stigmatized social group and used intergroup bias for one of the frameworks of my theory or of my dis. And you see really bad portrayals of people who are opioid users in the media, right? So subconsciously, unconsciously, you begin disliking or being unfriendly or engaging in negative behaviors toward people who use opioids because they're outgroup and we see that they're dangerous and deviant and bad, right? So removing verbal signs of discrimination might not be enough to combat intergroup bias. So, you know, recognizing that people social distance, people ignore, neglect, avoid, just by removing people who do or who use opioids are bad and criminal, just removing that might not be enough. Okay, so skip over the next couple slides because we're not going to do them. I'm on slide 15 right now. Just something to think about. Do you think that relationships online can be the same quality as face to face? So people who, think about if you're in a relationship, if I met my significant other online, would it be the same quality if we had met face to face or vice versa, right? Just something to think about while we're going through this. So mediated communication is what we're getting into now, and this is communication that is mediated by a channel or tool to either send or receive a message. So We might send email, texts, tweets, Instagram posts, blogs, things like that. And so mediated communication is typically called computer mediated communication, or CMC. So how does nonverbal communication change in a mediated context? Well, first of all, in 1987, the cues filtered out perspective became a thing. Whew. It's almost 6 o'clock now, and I might actually be getting tired. I haven't slept since, I don't know, it's been like 36 hours, maybe more. So this suggests that when we introduce our mediated channels, our nonverbal cues are going to be lost or distorted. So for example, you send me a picture of you and I reply, "Nice shirt." You don't know if I'm being serious, if I'm being sarcastic, because these nonverbal cues are gone, right? That makes sense. It says that CMC is always impersonal because it's lacking these cues that make our interactions seem more warm. So studies show that people couldn't reach a personal level through a text-based system. But this was criticized because it was suggested, Walther in 1992 suggested it, that perhaps CMC just takes a little bit longer than face-to-face to exchange content to get to that point than these studies were allowing. So with that in mind, it's maybe not, sorry, I'm moving, I'm crossing my legs and moving my computer. Oh, there's Bulbasaur, he's wearing a nice clip, just in case you wanted to know. I have a Bulbasaur at my house that I won in a claw machine in Japan. Cost me like $30, but did it. Okay, back to CMC. Sorry about that. So, it could be that we might be able to reach these same feelings of warmth during the interaction. It just might take a little bit longer. Okay, so that is cues filtered out. Social information processing theory. This is the difference between face-to-face and mediated relationships. The entire theory is to explain this difference, right? And that was 1992. It argues that relationships can be of the same quality even if we form them through mediated channels, right? The theory is used to explain the differences between the two, but it states that they could be the same quality. The primary difference is due to bandwidth, which is the amount of information that can be communicated at a given time. Face-to-face has pretty high bandwidth because when you're with the person talking face-to-face, I'm able to say, "Hey, I like your shirt. It looks really great on you. You know, it really complements your hair and your eyes, and you just look wonderful," right? I can say all that pretty quickly. If I were talking to you via FaceTime, that could be a close second, although we could have lagging because, you know, that's media for you, technology. Um, with text-based messages, we don't have as much bandwidth because we can't see as much nonverbal cues going on, but also it's going to take a lot longer to respond, right? And the responses can give us anxiety about the entire interaction as well. Okay, so phone calls we lose a lot. Same with just text-based messages. So people online, still going with social information processing theory, people online want to reduce uncertainty, form impressions, and develop affinity. Think about your Instagram profiles. You want to reduce uncertainty about you, about who you are. This is me. This is what I like to do. I'm a jet setter, right? I'm an influencer. I'm an Instagram model, right? We want to form these impressions. We want to develop some sort of affinity, and we want to reduce people's uncertainties about us. Instead of nonverbal cues, we substitute impression-bearing relational messages that into cues available on computer-mediated communication. So this could be the content that we're posting. It could be the style in which we post it. There's a girl that was a senior in high school when I was a freshman. We were not friends. I don't know why we're friends on Instagram because I don't know her. Like, I did not talk to her as a freshman in high school. But every Instagram she posts, she uses a special font for her captions, right? That's her style. The timing that you post things, the emojis that you use. And it doesn't just have to be social media. Think about, all right, so remember the days when we weren't on quarantine and you could go out and meet new people and have no problems. You met a new person that you're pretty interested in, and they text you at 2 p.m. and they say, we won't say 2 p.m., we'll say 10 a.m. Hey, you up? Okay, yeah, 10 a.m., I'm awake. What's up? They might want anything. Maybe they want to go grab brunch. Maybe they want you to help them move out of their dorm or their apartment. Maybe they want you to go to the dog park with them, right? There's lots of possibilities at 10 a.m. What if you get, hey, you up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m.? That timing makes a huge difference, right? The emojis they use. This theory was not very well in picturing the emojis that we have now. But if you are texting somebody and all they do is send you the eggplant emoji, the peach emoji, not together, but like two separate texts, or you send one and then they send the other, whatever it is, right? These emojis mean very different things than their intended usage, which I believe we talk about intended usage in this. Maybe not in this one, I can't remember. Right? So we are substituting impression-bearing and relational messages into cues available via CMC with SIPT. The hyperpersonal model in 1996, this explains why communicating via CMC sometimes has superior communication compared to face-to-face communication. So we can edit messages with asynchronous communication. It allows us as users to not only choose what channel, FaceTime, which is very similar to face-to-face, so it may not work with FaceTime, but social media, sliding into somebody's DMs on Twitter or Instagram, texting, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, Grindr, all of these dating apps, farmers only, whatever one you use, you're interested in, computer-mediated communication allows you to edit those messages, right? It's not in real time. So you're choosing the channel that's best for you, but you also get to edit your messages and communicate asynchronously. So if somebody texts you at 2 a.m., hey, you up? And you want them to come over or you want to go see them, right? You could respond, something cute, flirty, whatever, right? And you can type the message and then say, oh my God, this is not what I mean to say, and erase it and then retype. If you're in person, you can't just kind of stop and be like, oh, hang on, let me think of something clever to say, and then say it. It doesn't work. Second, we can selectively present ourselves to manage whatever impression that we deem necessary, right? So I can post pictures to my Instagram that make me seem fun and flirty and adventurous, when really I might be an introvert who I don't like a lot of people, right? So the hyperpersonal model is all about how CMC could have superiority to face-to-face, sorry. I did a paper on the hyperpersonal model back when I was a master's student, and around that time, State Farm, I believe it was, had a commercial where it was, they were talking about like everything on the internet is true. And this girl's supposed to go on a date with a guy, and he walks up and she's like, "Oh, must be my date. He's a French model." And the guy, her neighbor's like, "Where'd you meet him?" And she's like, "The internet. Everything on the internet is true." And the guy walks up that she's going on a date with, who does not look like the picture she showed, and he goes, "Uh, we." And then she goes on a date, right? He was able to present himself in the way that he wanted because it could catfish, which I'm still not sure how people are getting catfished. If people cannot FaceTime you, there's a problem. If people cannot, you know what? We've got Zoom now. It doesn't matter what technology, Apple, PC, Android, anybody can get Zoom. If they can't Zoom you, assume that they're catfishing you. I don't know how people are still getting catfished. I really don't. Third, with the hyper-personal model, receivers usually only see their partner in this positive and desirable way. So we get this idealization or overgeneralization of positive qualities from them, right? Because they're telling us what we want to hear. They're able to edit their messages so their message seems perfect. Nobody is that perfect when they have to think of things on the spot to say face to face, right? I mean, our poor parents, they had to date face to face. They didn't have this computer mediated stuff that we have, right? So our parents did not idealize because they saw it takes a little bit to get the wheels turning. Fourth, there's a feedback loop. So we feel that we're seen desirably, so we begin to embody and display these positive qualities, as does our relational partner, right? So how we are portraying ourselves online, we start to actually act like that in person. It's pretty cool. So media richness and nonverbal communication. Some channels are going to allow for information that is, or allow for more information and more effective communication than other channels. So, media richness theory is going to classify these channels of communication on a continuum. From lean channels, this might be a poster at a poster session, to rich channels, FaceTime. So, the more rich a channel, the more effective the communication will be. That's the thought, anyway. Synchronous communication is communication that occurs simultaneously or live, face to face, FaceTime, Skype, Zoom. A lot of you might be experiencing this with a lot of your classes that, we've all moved to online. I'm using an asynchronous type of class setting, right? We're not meeting from, what time do we meet? 11:30 to 12:45, right? Because I don't think it's fair to you all to have to sit and be on a computer screen for that many hours a day. I don't think that's good for you either, right? So synchronous is it's simultaneous, it's live. Asynchronous is ones that can be interrupted with periods of time, and it is pretty unique to communication that is computer mediated. So emails, texts, things like that, right? This video, you can pause it, get up, go play a game of Call of Duty, and then come back and watch it, right? You don't have to watch all of it in one setting. You just have to make sure you have the link downloaded before the slides close. Okay? So with time, it can be synchronous or asynchronous, but there's also a response latency. So the gap in time between sending and receiving messages can actually communicate its own message. So the longer response latency, the more uncertainty there is. We start thinking, oh my God, what are they doing? What are they thinking? It's especially bad when you see the little dots pop up. Or I used to have my read receipts on and I didn't do it so, I could be polite. I did it to be a bitch. I won't lie. Because there were people that were texting me and they would text me and text me like, "Are you getting these? Are you getting these?" So I deliberately turned them on. I want you to know I'm getting your messages. I am choosing to ignore you. I am actively choosing. And that means something else, right? When our significant others don't answer our texts or our phones, we automatically think the worst, right? Oh my God, they're cheating on me. They're out with some hoe. They're probably not out with some hoe. They're probably not cheating on you, right? They are at work, or maybe they're taking a nap, right? I'm the type of person, I take naps all the time. So the response latency when I'm not answering for hours, I'm probably asleep. So there is that response latency that can have its own message. There's also expressions in CMC, so emoticons and emojis. These are the type symbols, pictures that have some sort of meaning. They convey instructions or meaning to receivers. And they typically replicate emotions and expressions that we would show nonverbally if we were in person, right? It's similar to the expression and gestures that accompany the words, or similar to expression and gestures, they may accompany words, or they can stand alone. So if I send you a smiley face, it might mean I'm happy about what you said. As an instruction, I might just send you the pizza emoji, meaning let's go get pizza, right? So moving forward a little bit, just think about, what do you mean when you hit like on Facebook, right? Still with expressions, when you like something on Facebook. And these meanings have kind of changed since Facebook became a thing in 2004, right? Because when Facebook first became a thing, it was just a like and a comment button. And now there's like, love, haha, wow, sad, and angry. So, I use my mom as an example because that's what's relevant in my life right now. I post, my mom's battling cancer. It's stage 4. It spread from her lung to her liver, brain, and bone. She's currently doing chemo and radiation therapy. I post that as my status. And you hit like. What does that mean? Especially now that we have the sad. How are people supposed to interpret that? So we have these paralinguistic digital affordances, or PDAs, and these are cues that are interpreted in different ways, usually with one click. You can click the button. So it encourages interaction, but you don't have to have a specific language for these messages. It is really good for maintaining loose ties. So if after you're not my student and you decide, I'm going to look Kylie up on Facebook, I'm going to add her, sure, I'll add you as my friend. It'll be great. And I post something about my mom. We can maintain that loose tie. You click sad, right? I don't have to have language that goes with that. I'm going to know that that means sad. The like button gets kind of dicey, right? Because you click like and sorry, I don't really know what that means, right? But these PDAs, they can help us maintain our weak ties or loose ties. We don't need any words or language with it, and there's a cue based on the one click that you just did. So PDAs, you will need to know this about them. They are phatic in design, but perhaps not in use. So phatic is language that is used in aimless communication. It doesn't really contain a lot of information, and it is used to establish or maintain relationships, right? So phatic would be like saying, "Hey, how are you?" Right? It's aimless communication. That's what you say when you see people out and about. Do I really care how you are? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, so phatic is aimless communication. Social construction of technology says that the meaning and uses of technology fall on the users as well as the designers, not just the designers, right? So those people who designed the like, happy, sad, love, angry, wow faces on Facebook, the meaning isn't just for them. You as the user can decide what you mean. So you like the post that I put about my mom, right? You as the user decide that that doesn't mean that I am happy that your mom has stage 4 cancer. That means that, I acknowledge this information and I'm here for you, you know? Right? So that's the social construction. It's not just up to the users, it's up to everybody. Or up to the designers, I mean, it's up to everybody. With PDAs, we also have adaptive structuration theory. So technology and social processes have mutual influence on each other. People can use technology faithfully, so the way that it was intended to be used by the designers. Sorry. Or ironically, a way that violates the intended use. So you're on Instagram and you see a post that you like, right? You think it's a good post. And so you like it. You like that post because you like it. That is the way that it was intended to be used. However, ironically means you go beyond the content of the post. So you might have your own meaning for liking something on Instagram, right? I didn't like the post that you put on Instagram because I thought it was a good post. I liked it because I thought you were cute, right? That is ironic because it's not the way it was intended to be used. Moving forward to avatars and nonverbal implications. How many of y'all have Bitmojis, right? I got a Bitmoji, and my Bitmoji looks pretty similar to what I look like, I guess, in cartoon form. So avatars, or our Bitmoji, same idea, are our mediated embodiments and manifestations of human characteristics, right? So this is the nonverbal expression of yourself, and it is representative of your symbolic nature of nonverbal communication, right? So when I made my Bitmoji, which I still wear top knots a decent amount, but when I made my Bitmoji, I was wearing a top knot every single day. And typically I let my hair do this, which is its natural stuff. So my Bitmoji has curly hair because that's that nonverbal expression of myself, right? So avatars really reflect our mediated embodiments and manifestations of our human characteristics. The Proteus effect, people behave in the same manner expected of their virtual selves. Or people behave in the manner expected of their virtual selves. I'm sorry. So thinking attractiveness and height of avatars. So Yi and Bailenson in 2007, not 2070, like I almost just said, 2007. These are virtual environments, so online games, chat rooms, increasingly allow us our digital self-representation. We can alter them dramatically or easily. But as we change our self-presentations, do our self-representations change our behavior in turn? So they did 2 experimental studies to explore the hypothesis that an individual's behavior conforms to their digital self-representation independently of how others perceive them. So they call this term the Proteus effect. In the first study, participants assigned to a more attractive avatar in immersive virtual environments, so chat rooms or online games, were more intimate with Confederates in self-disclosure and interpersonal distance task than participants who were assigned less attractive avatars. So how attractive your avatar is really provided you with this confidence to self-disclose about yourself or work on a task at hand together with somebody in the study than those who were less attractive avatars. The second study, participants were assigned taller avatars, or who were assigned taller avatars behaved more confidently in a negotiation task than shorter avatars, right? So this is the idea that attractiveness and height plays an impact on your confidence levels as well as your intimate disclosures. CMC also allows for social presence. Sorry, I'm crossing my legs. And this helps identify and connect with others and reduce this psychological distance. So this is done through the use of technology. And because we are doing this with technology, virtual actors are experienced as actual social actors. So this creates a sense that we're a part of something else, we're a part of something together. Commenting on Facebook on, I don't know, a community page or whatever. I follow a lot of anti-vaccination pages, not because, I mean, self-disclosure, my personal belief, vaccinate your kids. That's my personal belief, but I'm interested in understanding the language that's used. So I follow a lot of these anti-vaccination movement pages just so I can get a sense of the language that they're using to call themselves. Do they refer to themselves as anti-vaxxers or stuff like that? So, different reasons for joining the group, and I don't comment on them because I need to stay in the group so I can see how language evolves and stuff. I want to do a study on that. But say I were to comment on them and say something like, you're dumb. You're dumb because your child is only going to live to 3 years old because you're not vaccinating them, right? We've seen those comments on a lot of things, right? We're a part of something big. MMORPGs, massively multiplayer online role-playing games, right? Call of Duty. Richard has been obsessed with it lately, right? So I actually, when he goes in his room to play, I make him shut the door because he gets so loud because they're all yelling at each other and there's like 5 or 6 of them playing and I'm like, oh my God, I can't with you. Literally can't, right? So social presence is similar with technology to face-to-face. It's how you're connecting, but in technology, it's through a medium, right? I don't know if you have heard of the Gishwesh? Gishways? I don't know. It's the greatest international scavenger hunt the world has ever seen. And I think it's like $20 to do, and all the money goes to charity. And you have to run around your area and take pictures doing weird things. We had to make a dress out of food items. Weird. We had to make a like a player board of our team members with something representative of their area. And these people are like, I had team members that I'm still friends with on Facebook, that Australia, England. I had one team member from Norway, right? Like all these team members. And so we were a part of something big. We were connected. I'm still friends with them, right? We did the scavenger hunt once together. It was awesome. So communication becomes more meaningful on an interpersonal level from this perspective because you have this social presence. You are a part of something. Next, we move to applications of interactive media and nonverbal communication. So one, we build personal relationships. Our social networking sites, so social media, help us maintain relationships. So we have online dating. This is a part of building a personal relationship. It's becoming pretty popular, right? There's um, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, Grindr, eHarmony, OkCupid, Plenty of Fish, Farmers Only. Those are just some, right? So the pro, there's this disinhibition that leads to more revealing and rewarding self-disclosure. So because I'm not face to face, I feel comfortable telling you some of my most intimate secrets and things about me, right? Because we're not face to face. There's not this sense of risk or doom looming over me. A con, there's a lot of room for anonymity and deception. So, catfish. But again, if you are not willing to chat with me via Zoom or Skype or FaceTime, Snapchat, right? I feel like Snapchat would be a way where you are not able to catfish. You can't send it through the app. I don't know, maybe you can. Catfish is a big con. There's cyber flirting, so you're more likely to begin with an exchange of texts or pictures. So regular flirting needs courtship behaviors in the initial stages, but cyber flirting begins with the exchange of texts or pictures, right? So you meet somebody really cute and they say at the end of the night, like, oh, hey, you're really cute. I want to, you know, well, you wouldn't meet in person, sorry. That doesn't work. You meet in a chat room or something and you just start texting. You automatically get their number, and then that leads to another step. So you're sending pictures of your face. And then, I mean, like Snapchat was literally invented so you could send sexts that nobody could keep, right? You're not just texting them to somebody. Uh, and then you could screenshot them, and that was a problem. And then you could also put them up for unlimited amount of time. Back when I was an undergrad, which I mean, not that long ago, but still a decent amount of time, Snapchats, I would send my best friend, because she went to a different college than me, Snapchats of us at Around the World, which was this big party at the bar. And I'd send her these Snapchats, and they were only available for 3 seconds, right? I'd see I had Snapchatted her the next morning. I'm like, oh, Anna, what did I say to you? And she's like, I have no idea. I can't see it anymore, right? So there's lots going on with building our personal relationships. There's a lot of jealousy as well. So social network sites provide information capable of sparking jealousy, liking another person's pictures when you're in a relationship. Snapchat, another Snapchat fact, used to actually, I don't know if y'all know this, they used to let you see people's top friends. When you Snapchatted them, what your Snapchat points were. It was crazy. It caused so many fights and breakups because I can see who my significant other is Snapchatting, right? Like it caused a lot of fights. So there's a lot of jealousy with these, with building personal relationships. Second, pursuing an education. So distance learning is really big. So what you're doing now, because coronavirus, right? You're watching an online lecture. It's now possible. Grades actually don't vary based on research studies as compared with traditional courses, but instructors are perceived to behave more distantly. So there's this lack of social presence, right? The decreasing social emotional measure of success and evaluation of instructors. So our situation is kind of unique because we started face to face and then we all had to move online. Um, but with more distance, we typically use less eye contact, less gestures, and more time behind a desk, right? So typically, I do worse in my online evals. It's because I'm not right there with you. However, I feel like I've formed this relationship with these classes. I feel comfortable with each of my sections that I'm teaching this semester, and we started face to face, that I can be, my normal, quirky, weird self and not feel weird about it, right? If I were to start teaching at a new university, I would be a little hard pressed to um, be told I'm teaching online right away. Like, I don't know you. I'd have to be on my best behavior. I don't want to do that. So distance instructors can increase social presence by recording lectures. So I'm not just posting PowerPoints. I'm showing you, I'm going through the information as I would, emailing back quickly, and posting pictures of themselves. Appropriate pictures, right? So in my email, it's not my most up-to-date headshot. I got that one in August of 2019, the one that's in my email. My most up-to-date one is from NCA, but I think my hair looks better in the August one than the November one, so I use the August one, right? Video, helping those in need. The link is right there. Check it out. You will need to know some of this information for the exam. And 3, helping those in need. Interactive technology can help those who are not able to communicate both verbally and non-verbally through nonverbal applications. So think of like Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking, very intelligent, but had to use technology to communicate. Those people who invented his technology helped him communicate. And that made a huge world of difference for him. And then finally, dangers of CMC. So there is danger when communicating via CMC. Nonverbal images, so pictures of you, could have negative ramifications in the long term, right? So this is why like Snapchat was invented, so you could send a sext without this negative ramification. But now that doesn't really work because people can screenshot your stuff and then send it around, and so that's a problem again, right? So we have to be aware that if it's online, it can be found, and it is most likely permanent, right? So you need to make sure that you're not posting things that are less than worthy of everybody seeing, right? Think how you would feel if grandma saw all that. This can damage relationships, self-esteem, and privacy. So CMC gives us a great opportunity to build relationships, learn, and help ourselves and others, but it can also damage our relationships and things about ourselves like our esteem and privacy. Whew, that was a lot. So that's the end of chapter 13. Just so you know, chapter 14 is not one we cover for this course anymore. So you do not have to worry. You won't see chapter 14 slides because we don't cover it. There also will not be a video because you don't need that information. So the next slides that I'm going to cover are chapter 15, so be on the lookout for those. As always, I won't see you, but you will see me next time. Have a great night. Gotta close that, Kylie.